What happens when powerful New York City construction union boss decides he's going to freeze Gambino family out of most lucrative building boom in city's history, steering $50 million in annual contracts to companies that don't pay tribute to organized crime? When he thinks his political connections and union control give him enough power to exclude mob from industry they've dominated 40 years. And when John Gotti discovers union contracts worth hundreds of millions are being awarded to non-mob contractors, cutting Gambino out of kickback system funding their operations since 1950s. This is story of meeting in March 1988, and why union boss learned that controlling labor doesn't mean controlling construction, and that trying to exclude Gambino family from NYC building projects doesn't just cost you politically, it costs you every single contract you thought you controlled. March 1988, New York City. City in middle of massive construction boom, real estate development exploding across Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, office towers, luxury apartments, hotels, billions in projects breaking ground monthly. Every project needed union labor, electricians, plumbers, concrete workers, steel workers, carpenters. Union labor mandatory for any major construction. Thomas Brennan, 52, was president of New York Construction Workers Coalition, umbrella representing 15,000 members across 6 major trades. 8 years in position, built through political connections and alliances with legitimate construction companies. Smart, connected, ambitious, had relationships with city officials, building inspectors, contractors, controlled which projects got union cooperation and which faced delays, strikes, work stoppages. That power made him valuable, and Thomas Brennan decided to use that power to clean up construction by cutting out mob influence. Problem was organized crime had controlled NYC construction for decades. System simple, construction companies wanting union cooperation paid tribute to mob families controlling relevant unions. Gambino family controlled concrete and trucking, Genovese electrical work, Lucchese windows and masonry. Every major project involved multiple trades, meant paying multiple families. Contractors didn't like it, but accepted it because building without mob cooperation meant strikes, delays, equipment failures, projects never finished. Cheaper to pay tribute. Mob families made millions annually from construction kickbacks. Thomas Brennan decided it shouldn't work anymore. Developed relationships with new generation construction companies, legitimate firms with political connections who wanted to build without paying mob tax. Brennan's plan strategic, started steering major contracts to companies refusing mob tribute. When those companies faced union problems, Brennan made sure his unions cooperated anyway, used political relationships to expedite permits, coordinated with city inspectors to keep projects moving, built parallel system where contractors could operate without mob involvement if working with Brennan. Over 6 months, successfully excluded Gambino from approximately 20 major projects worth combined $50 million annually. Contractors who normally paid Gambino tribute now paid Brennan consultation fees instead. Technically legal, Brennan wasn't extorting, providing legitimate labor coordination. But result same, Gambino cut out of most profitable construction boom in decades. Discovery happened when Gambino captains noticed construction revenue problems. Projects that should generate tribute weren't paying. Contractors they'd worked with for years claiming didn't need mob cooperation. Investigation found same name repeatedly. Thomas Brennan. He was steering contracts away, providing union cooperation to contractors not paying tribute. Building alternative power structure excluding organized crime. Captains wanted immediate response, but Gotti saw differently. Brennan wasn't street criminal or rival mobster. Was legitimate union president with political connections, relationships with city officials, legal authority over 15,000 workers. Couldn't just intimidate him. Going after him violently would bring federal attention, union investigations, political problems, required different approach. Gotti's strategy, systematic pressure without fingerprints, identify every contractor working Brennan's system. Use Gambino political connections to create problems, permit delays, inspection issues, zoning complications, make clear working without mob cooperation more expensive than paying tribute. Isolate Brennan politically by demonstrating his system couldn't protect contractors. Once Brennan realized system failing, offer meeting to renegotiate terms. Execution took 2 months. Gambino used connections with city agencies, inspectors, zoning officials, permit departments to create delays for every project in Brennan's system. Inspection failures requiring expensive fixes, permit delays, pushing back schedules. Zoning questions requiring legal review. None obviously criminal, just normal bureaucratic complications. Except all happening to same contractors, ones working with Brennan. Meanwhile, contractors maintaining mob relationships had no problems. Permits came through. Inspections passed. Projects stayed on schedule. Message clear. Working with Brennan cost more time and money than paying Gambino tribute. By May 1988, contractors calling Brennan with complaints. Projects delayed. Costs overrunning. Losing money on contracts that should be profitable. Brennan tried using political connections to solve problems, discovered mob's connections ran deeper. City officials gave bureaucratic explanations that sounded legitimate. Inspectors showed code violations technically real, even if never enforced before. Brennan understood what happening. Gambino demonstrating his system couldn't protect contractors, and if couldn't protect, they'd return to traditional mob system. Got message through intermediary. John Gotti would like to meet to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements regarding construction industry coordination. Invitation carefully worded, professional, businesslike, no intimidation. But Brennan understood. Gambino offering choice: continue fighting losing battle or negotiate terms working for both sides. Brennan consulted board, contractors, political allies. Same advice: take meeting. Fighting mob on construction costing too much money and political capital. If accommodation possible, smarter than continuing war. Meeting arranged Thursday evening, Italian restaurant Queens, Gambino territory, establishing whose power greater. Brennan arrived with 2 vice presidents. Gotti arrived with Sammy Gravano and construction captain. Sat private table. Contrast immediate. Gotti in perfect suit, diamond ring, slicked hair, organized crime sophistication. Brennan in union president style, nice suit but working class, practical. Gotti spoke. Brennan, thank you for meeting. I understand you've been steering contracts to companies you have relationships with, providing union support. Interesting system you've built. Brennan kept composure. I represent 15,000 workers. My job is ensuring they have work. If that means developing contractor relationships, that's what I do. I respect that. But there's problem. You've been steering contracts to companies without proper arrangements with families traditionally coordinating construction. That's created complications. What complications? The kind where contractors working your system experiencing permit delays, inspection problems, zoning issues. Projects taking 9 months instead of 6. That's expensive. When contractors lose money, they stop trusting people who recommended that system. Are you saying Gambino responsible for delays? I'm saying NYC construction operated certain way 40 years. Established system where families with political connections help coordinate projects. Contractors working within system have fewer problems. Those trying to work outside discover building in New York complicated and expensive. So this about getting contractors to pay mob tribute again. This about recognizing reality. You built system based on idea you could provide contractors union cooperation without mob involvement. But you don't control all pieces making construction happen. You control labor. We control permits, inspections, zoning, relationships with city agencies, political connections going back decades. You can't build successfully with just labor. You need everything to align. Everything aligning requires working with families having those relationships. Gotti's proposal. You continue representing unions coordinating labor. But major projects over 5 million, those contractors make appropriate arrangements with relevant families for coordination services. We ensure permits move smoothly, inspections pass, zoning approved. Contractors pay coordination fee, 5% of project value, distributed to families providing services. Your unions get steady work. Contractors get projects finishing on time and budget. Families get compensation. Everybody benefits. 5% on 50 million project. That's 2.5 million to mob. That's 2.5 million, ensuring 50 million project actually gets finished. Without coordination services, contractors discovering projects turn into 60 million because of delays. Cheaper to pay for coordination than problems. And if I refuse, then you keep dealing with complications. Permit delays, inspection failures, zoning problems, political obstacles making your system too expensive. Eventually contractors stop trusting you, your union influence declines.